Hey, there we go. And say something. Let me sure I can hear you. Oh, hold on. The speakers on this computer stink. All right. I still can't hear you.
I'm fucking with you.
I'm like, I heard a click, but I didn't hear you.
Uh-huh.
All right. So how are you doing today, Keith?
I'm a little hopped up because I'm a rock star.
Yeah, I got my natural. It's not even an energy booster, but it counts. So, um, so the only downside here is I can't see how many people are in. But let me see if I can see it on Facebook before we get going. Make sure there's at least someone watching. I know there'll be plenty of people watching later. I don't see it
That's
on
the idea.
this.
So, Act Audio, reaching out, moving on, doing something different. Want to talk about that while we're waiting?
The fleet? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Um, so it's actually kind of an interesting story. I used Fleet to actually establish Act Audio. So while the business was young, we did a lot of subcontracting fleet work to get the business growing and keep ourselves busy in our downtime. And as the business grew, we eventually couldn't do it, and we could make, 100+ bucks an hour here or go on the road and make less. We eventually couldn't do it, and we could make, 100+ bucks an hour here or go on the road and make less. I hear myself. Did you hear that?
Yeah, and some kind of vacuuming or something.
Yeah. All right. So as the business grew, it became irrelevant and we stepped away. But then when I took over full ownership, I launched back into it to send my techs out. And I had a really good opportunity, which going back, well, we haven't done core values yet. But the company I was working with didn't fit my core values and I exited. So I had to scramble and figure something out that I was going to do with that Audio Fleet since I had established it as its own entity. And I decided to start selling GPS and cameras. So now I'm a reseller of GPS and cameras, and I install them myself. So it's kind of a cool gig. If people want to get into it, they can actually make residual money, which is the name of the game these days. So that is where I'm going, and I don't have any in front of me, but I got a whole bunch, and I got a bunch of things working, but they're pretty cool. So, and since then I've actually merged it back to just one business instead of two separate businesses anymore. So
Probably a good idea.
It was a big loop.
Yeah. Is there an opportunity for others in your area or other states that could piggyback off this?
Absolutely. If people had, there's two ways really. If people had one-offs and they had some customers that they wanted some tracking for, they could definitely get some devices, sell them, and make small residual every month. If they actually was really interested, they could do it themselves. It wasn't too much of a buy-in to have this product essentially white labeled for their business. Nice. And if anyone is interested, either way, reach out to me. You do the whole buy-in and white label. I have nothing to do with that, but I can help direct you in the right place. So, I don't know, anything else you want to say about that before we continue? I know we had some other things we talked about, but I don't think we're ready to discuss it.
Yeah, I think we just move on.
Okay. Do you want to talk about what we are talking about today?
Yes. Let's talk about policies, procedures, what they do, why they do it, and why they make life easier for owners and managers.
Yeah. So I know for me, they've made a world of change to my business, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Maybe we should discuss the differences to start. We really didn't talk about that earlier. We were going to go right into the email thing, but what's the difference in SOP policies and procedures?
What is the E-Myth?
So E-Myth is Entrepreneurial Myth, right? If I remember correctly. It's a book, audio book or regular book. There's many different versions. Essentially says that most people that own a business today were were employees that had an entrepreneurial seizure and said, you know what, I can do this and I can make all the money and I'm going to go do it, which I see all the time, especially in our industry,
Yeah.
especially with tinters. I see it the most with tinters.
Those
So
dirty fuckers.
they go out and they're right. They can do it. They can, start their own business and do it and make all the money. But what they don't realize is running a business is much greater of a task than doing the work, being the technician or being the tinter or whatever it is, salesperson. Um, and that seizure, I guess, is short lived, and they become a owner of a glorified job. And E-Myth is essentially about how to create policies and procedures to get yourself into a better position to run a business and own a business rather than own a job. How was that for a summary?
That works for me. I read it about 10, 15 years ago. Made a
So
lot of sense.
you're a lot ahead of me. I read it 3 years ago. So actually, I listened to it. I didn't read books like I do now. Then I listened. So that's how I started getting back into reading. So
I find that reading books has more of an impact for me, so I'd rather take the time and read it. Some
I
people
agree. So
otherwise.
I started with listening for many years because it was convenient. I could be up under a car listening, doing errands, driving. Now I do both. But you're right. Reading the book has much more of an impact, and I dedicate a minimum of 10 pages a day in the morning to reading a business/self-help book. I can continue, but I have to do at least 10 pages.
That's a good regime. I like it.
Yeah, and then
And
I got
how?
a personal book I read at night.
Oh, even
I don't
better.
get very, I don't get very far with that one.
Yeah, it's just to get your mind off stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is the difference between SOP, policies, and procedures?
Okay, so policies. It's the ideology behind the words. So the policy is don't come to work high. Pretty simple philosophy, right? If you come to work high, you're probably going to fuck up and do something that is going to, make you lose your job. So the procedure is come to work not high, don't get high at work, uh, get high after work. Yes. The standard operating procedure, SOP, is come to work without bringing drugs with you, even probably better. Um, work all day, don't use or find any drugs along the way. And then at the end of the day, go get your drugs. How's that?
Yeah. So the policy is the broad overview of what you expect. The procedure is, your standard how to get there, and your SOP is your step-by-step detail.
Mhm.
Is that a
Yeah.
fair assessment?
Yes, but I forgot one part. Part of the procedure is the consequence. I forgot to put that in.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, if you're
Yep.
high, yeah, fuck off.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So I forgot my checklist. So I am gonna have those brought into me real quick. Um, but let's talk about, I guess, E-Myth again. And in E-Myth, they discuss constantly putting out fires, right? So as a business owner, a lot of us, we feel like we're just running around putting out fires and we're constantly being reactive. So as soon as this fire is out, there's a line of fires waiting to be put out too. And
Yes.
we're constantly jumping fire to fire to fire to fire. And I've definitely been there myself. I'm sure you have, and I'm sure many people watching this have been there. So it's about establishing these policies and procedures to, instead of being reactive, be proactive,
Yes.
right?
So, case in point, I was in Mexico last week, had a nice, relaxing time with my wife. Didn't have to call the stores. I came back. There were no fires to put out. How many people can raise their hand and say, that's an option for me? I wasn't, because I was Captain Chaos. I loved chaos. I loved living in it. I loved dealing with it. I loved playing with it. And then I realized that I wasn't going anywhere. So having policies and procedures in place, I could manage the policies and the procedures, and I wouldn't have to deal with the fires when I came back.
Yeah. So I'm the same way. It's almost like an addiction because you've done it for so long.
Mhm.
So I guess I'll talk about uh, my story right now. I think a good time. So I was a job owner for several years, and we I had a business partner, and essentially policies and procedures. The easiest way we're going to get into, guys, how to establish them and things like that. We want to talk about the importance right now. So policies and procedures are already in your head because you know as a business owner exactly what you want done, how you want it done, and what your end result is. But you got to get it down on pen and paper. So I had a business partner. We worked together for about 10 years, and we both had our policies in our head. We knew exactly what to do. We talked about it. We were great. He walked away, and now I have to hire employees. So I hired these employees, and man, these guys, they didn't get it. They didn't do the work the way I wanted. They were frustrating. They really, bothered me. And after a while, I realized it's not them, it's me. The problem is I did not take what's in my head, put it down on paper for them to see, so that they knew how to be successful. They knew how to do that job exactly to, you know, be the better employee. And the problem is a lot of us, human nature, we don't want to look stupid. So a lot of times we're not going to ask the questions that we should be asking and things like that because we don't want to be stupid. This is a sales thing I've learned too. You want to word your questions carefully to customers because they don't want to look stupid. But by putting this stuff down on pen and paper so that they know exactly what's expected, exactly how to do it, they now know how to be successful and move to the next level with you. So back to my story, my partner left. It was a really shit show. I was running around putting out more fires than ever before because we didn't know how to prevent the fires. I didn't have the policies. I did a time study and it was a disaster. And I worked really hard late night establishing my policies and my procedures. And then we had a giant store meeting and we went over it. And it was still rocky for a while, but eventually things started to smooth out. And I still work on those policies and procedures every single day so that my employees know exactly what's expected when a situation arises and how to overcome that situation and how to handle that situation to my standards.
Cool. So we discussed earlier about it being a living, breathing document. So the way I got to it was after reading the book and talking to a bunch of people, Marcel Newell and Dale Ellis and a bunch of other people that were prominent in the industry at the time. I got my people together in one big room and we had a chalkboard and we wrote down all the stuff that we did really well. And then we wrote down another column, what stuff we didn't do really well. And then we came together and thought, okay, we're going to tackle these 5 things. What do we need to do in order to be better at these things and continue to be good at what we were doing already? And so that's when the policies came through. Actually, it started off with our core values. We came up with our core values during that process. It was more like a store inventory, not a physical inventory for products, but an inventory for the people, the staff, the technology behind everything. And we got to this place where it was really easy to put it down on paper of what we expected out of each other and what we expected from the store and what we expected from our customers. So not a lot of people put that in their policy. Is like, I expect my customer not to fuck me over, be a no-show. What was that sound?
push down.
Are you typing?
I am. Is it that loud?
Yeah, it's pretty loud. Anyway.
I was typing to Eric. He said, speak up and turn off the paper shredder.
You got a paper shredder?
I don't. So I don't know what he's talking about.
Sounds like a vacuum cleaner. Anyway.
Do you hear it?
Every once in a while it shows up, yeah. Anyway, technology issues, right? What we got? There it is. That's the sound. You not hear that?
No.
Wow.
I'm in my office. The door's closed.
Okay. It's gone now. Anyways, the policy is when we're on these meetings, we're nice and quiet. The procedure is we tell everybody else that we're in a meeting and to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So I got a rule: if my door's shut, I'm in a meeting. Don't bother me.
Yeah, that makes sense. But if people have the knowledge of what's going to happen and the expectation of what not to do, then you won't have to yell at them later.
Correct.
But
So
you should
then,
put it in writing.
so then your job becomes, instead of being a, micromanager or constantly putting out fires, your job becomes, what was the term I used? You become more of an enforcer and you start delegating.
Well, you get to focus on what really matters at this point because you don't have to deal with all the other bullshit that you had to deal with before, right? So in order to grow into something bigger or something that you can take vacation from, you need to have having these policies in place makes life just so much easier.
Correct. And then, like I was saying, you start to focus on, why wasn't the policy followed? And sometimes the policies aren't exactly practical, so you have to refine them for the real world. And that's where your team's feedback comes into place.
Yeah.
And I tell my team all the time, like, hey, we're going to create this policy. What do you guys think? Right? I get them involved now. And what do you guys think? And if there's any problems when you're doing this, let me know, and we'll talk about it and go from there. So we started a follow-up process in our store, right? We got a CRM and we had to create a follow-up process. So we had to create SOP for that follow-up process. And it really wasn't working. So we went back and we refined it and we refined it again until it worked. So that's that breathing, living document. So
Correct.
for me, I, in my phone, have notes where I will come across situations and I have to take a note, like create a policy for this. So recently I had a couple of problems with some troubleshooting in the garage, and I said, I got to create a policy on what's the order of trying to find that problem do we need to go through. Because a lot of times they call me first thing, right? Well, I can't have them calling me first thing every single time because I'm busy. So every time they call me, I get distracted. I stop what I'm doing. So I needed to create a policy of, you need to ask a fellow technician first, then, call tech support, then call me. Something like that, so that I'm the last in the line, so I'm not as distracted taking care of them.
Can I change something little on that?
Yeah.
I always suggest call tech support first because you're going to be put on hold for a while. While you're on hold, go talk to the other installers next to you and see if they can help you out quickly.
And that's fair.
Yeah, because it takes a while these days.
In all honesty, I haven't actually wrote that one out yet. It's still on my phone that says need to create. Good. So I need a policy of how to go through my phone weekly. But
it's about efficiency, really. Policies and procedures is efficiency in action. So the people who are listening to this or watching this, if they want to know what we do, they can call up and ask or email or text or do something. And I will gladly send you my policies and procedures. Of course, it'll be different in your state because different rules and different laws, all that stuff, but you can adapt it to what you need. And so rather than James and I, we had to basically start these ourselves. You can jumpstart it by having somebody else's and take what you want and leave the rest.
Yeah, and same with me. I'm more than happy to share mine as well. So if you want, give me one quick second. I'm going to grab something and show you.
You grabbing your nuts? Oh, I can't hear that. Maybe I should say something else like, oh, my nuts, stop it. You're reaching through the screen. It's funny when you can't hear me. I can say anything I want. Anybody else got anything to say? Should I say something? No?
I
Okay.
can't see chat, so that's the tough part.
Oh, so Christopher says pound the Keith. I don't know what that means. Maybe pound sand. I
What
don't
does it
know.
say?
Jason Cook says hello. Brandon Green says hi. Angel
Oh,
Rivera
I
says,
see it.
sup, you guys. And Brandon's laughing.
I see it now. All right, so what I'm going to share, I've shared it before in this group, but basically I created, and this is a form of policy. So policies can be anything from how to not show up to work high, how to clock in, how to create a gift certificate, how to create an invoice, or this is another one that I've shared with you guys. Trying to get it in here. This is how to quote, essentially how to quote a customer. So what I want in my store is I want to put out the same product every time, right? Within reason, right? I want that same quality, that same result, that same satisfaction. And we tend to forget things. So I created these checklists. This is for a double DIN, everything's backwards. I created this for double DIN radio installs. I have this for regular head unit installs. I have it for amp and sub, for 4-channel amp, for remote starter, single button, and multi button. And it allows us to go through this checklist, and you can ask the customer, if you go through your fit guide and you put in your harness, your dash kit, all the stuff that you standard need. Then it has all the options. Does the car have satellite radio? Does it have rear seat entertainment, steering wheel controls, USB, blah, blah, blah. So what this is going to produce is every single thing has a labor assigned with it and the part. So if my employees are using this checklist, no matter who you talk to, should come out with the same time of labor it takes to install that radio, right? So an 05 Corolla, it's got nothing to it. It's going to be a base labor. But a 2020 Escalade, I don't know if we put a radio in, I just threw it out there, has so much more to it with the rear seat entertainment. It's a lot more labor, but we're all going to come out to the same labor. So if you have multiple stores like Keith, you do it across your stores, no matter what store they go to, they're going to come out with a similar quote within reason. So it's basically creating a process of how to sell it. The other thing it does is it allows the customer to hear all the options. So I can say, do you have satellite radio from the factory? And they say no, or are you interested in adding it? So it gives me also an opportunity to upsell. So to me, I'm creating a policy on how to sell radios, how to sell amps, how to sell that type of stuff so that we're all on the same page. We all have the same answer to the customer. Again, within reason, they're not going to be exact. And it's creating that procedure. So now my team doesn't necessarily have to focus on remembering everything, because if we forget something and we disappoint a customer, now we got to go back in. We disappointed a customer, we're wasting time, we look bad, whatever it is. So this is preventing all of that from happening. And it's also, basically making sure we're dotting our I's, crossing our T's. I've also created packages. So I have stage 1 through 5 for amp and subs in the car, amp and subs in the truck, stereo systems, motorcycle systems, so that my guys can focus on selling the core product easier and worry about like the overall picture, the upsells, the customer satisfaction, and not have to worry about the nitty gritty details. I don't know if that all makes sense.
Yes, especially the nitty gritty part. I love that, Trace. It's really good.
Well, there's so much involved in these cars. Every car is so different. For example, this is actually great. We had a customer message us today. She's very upset because we sold her a single button and a smart start cell phone app, and we didn't include the trunk pop, and it doesn't go through data. Well, the customer was like, oh, I'm a little frustrated. You guys now want to come back and pay more. And I I jumped into the chat and I said, you know what, customer, you're 100% right. We overlooked that because we sold you a single button and we overlooked it. So guess what I'm doing? I'm going to refine my sales process so that we are asking customers with Smart Start if they want Trunk and preventing that disappointment in the future.
So why can't they just hit the trunk button there?
So they can, but it doesn't work through data on their car. So it's a rare situation where it doesn't work through data. She got the Smart Start. The factory one doesn't work when the car's running. So it's a tough one, and it's that small percentage of vehicles. But I don't want to disappoint a customer again. So we're going to refine what we do here to prevent that from happening again. So we take everything as a learning experience.
So standard operating procedure is you never take anything away from what they had.
Which we already focus on, but this is a gap in our policies that we missed, and we just got to refine it for the future.
Mhm.
And this particular customer, we're going to take care of and move forward. So, I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
Simple things like where's the USB going to be in a car, right? If it's a Apple CarPlay system or Android Auto, you need to have access to that. So we always make sure it's not in the glove box because people get pissed. So standard operating procedure for that is never put it in the glove box unless the customer specifically asks for that. But we try and
So
find
we have ours. We have ours too. We discuss it with the customers. We generally do the cigarette lighter.
right.
But what we also do,
little things. It's all these little things that we forget because we do it on a daily basis. It's just standard for us. We just make it happen, right? But when we hire a new person or we hire somebody that has brain trauma, I don't know, whatever, and they forget, and it becomes our problem because we have to put out that fire again and again and again, then we need to put it on paper so that people understand and have them sign off on every single statement. If they don't like that statement, highlight it in yellow and bring it up and say, I don't like this statement. What can we do for it? Brainstorm ideas in order to make your policies and procedures work perfectly for your store.
correct. There's one more point I was going to bring up there. Oh, so I also feel that we tend to complicate hiring new people because let's be honest, this is a complicated industry. There's so many different makes, models, trims, products, and we got to fit all these square pegs into round holes. So it does get very complicated. But by creating these policies and procedures, it allows us to bring in new people and simplify it for them to do what we want them to do and achieve the same results with less experience. So that's really one of the biggest benefits that I found with this type of process.
Mm-hmm. I just hired the guy.
Did you?
Yeah. He went through the policies and procedures, liked them all, didn't say anything about any of them. Now I got to put him through the paces. So that's the next thing that I forgot to talk about is once you read the policies and procedures, you need to supervise it for a little while until people get used to how they flow. There should be a certain flow to how it's written so that people understand what's the next phase to go through. And so this guy hired him on Monday. Today's Wednesday. We're going to go back to that store and walk them through how they can work for him.
Yeah. So Parrish Tanner actually has a very good document he uses for that, where he actually has a policy and procedure for training new people and how he walks them through all the different stuff. And he sent that to me once. I briefly looked at it. I meant to get in a little more.
Can you forward it to me?
I can ask him. I don't want to do it without permission, but I will ask him. I'm sure he'll say yes. It's not my document, in all fairness. So I think, unless you got more to say about that, we could talk about really how to create it.
Yes.
So I use a strategy in a way. It's basically do it, document it, delegate it. Is kind of one of the easiest ways. So you have to do it yourself to experience it. I mean, you don't have to, but it's best. Do it yourself to experience it, or have someone that you trust do it, so they experience it. Then we're going to document it, and we're going to then delegate it to the person that is best suited, the salesperson, the installer, whoever it is. Um, so sorry, I forgot what I was saying there, but
You're saying organized, deputized, supervised, basically.
yeah, ultimately, so even like remote car starters, it's tough because there's so many different variables. So in a situation like that, I have my basic SOP. Where do I want it grounded? Where do I want the antenna? How to make your connections, things like that. So I don't have like an exact, step-by-step guide because you can't do one because every car's different. But I have my basics in there of I want it grounded pin 4 of the OBD or factory ground in the kick panel. I don't want wires tapped into each other inside the tape. You either run it to its location or tie it in at the bring. I prefer running it to the location. Antennas go in the center of the windshield unless you can't. Our runtime is the same across the board, things like that, so that if there's a problem and it comes back, we all know what to expect. We all know that we're not going to be unwrapping tape to find where they tapped in a wire because it's going to run to all the same spot. And those policies, to me, make troubleshooting and future efficiency.
Good call.
Yeah. So just to clarify to everyone watching, it's not always a step-by-step guide. Sometimes it's an overview of, basics of what you need done for that install.
And the reasons why, which makes it the policy. The reason why I want you to do this is because future troubleshooting or changing things up makes it a whole lot easier. So if you just keep it really simple like this, follow the procedure, you'll be fine.
Right. A good tip for people that are trying to establish their policies and haven't done it is if you have a new person, essentially you can train them and ask them to document what you're training them, right? Because what they're doing right now is watching.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask them to record what you're training them while they watch, and boom, they've just built your policies. So they record it. So not only do they watch you, but now they write it down. So you're double reinforcing. Then once it's all written down, you can take it and refine it, put it into a nice, pretty document or whatever you want to do, and then use that as your store policies. So it's kind of a little bit of a hack if you're hiring a new person. So I know Brandon Green, he just hired a new salesperson. I don't think he's ever had one before. Well, this is a perfect time for him to train that person to his liking and have that person document his SOPs for that position. One more thing is the policies don't always have to be on pen and paper or typed up, right? We say pen and paper, but we mean typed up. You can also use an app. It's called loom.com, and you can record videos and you can title them and you can stick them in a Google Drive. So like how to make a gift card, how to invoice, how to create a purchase order, whatever it is, and you do a video, and Loom will actually record your camera and record your screen, and you can walk them through how to do that task on the computer, and then you save it in your Google Drive with the heading, and if there's ever a problem, they go search for it. So the greatest example I can share here, and this is really why you need SOP. So we don't sell a lot of gift cards in my store. We sell them in December. Every December, the sales staff comes to me and says, how do I do a gift card again? And I say, I don't know. Let's go figure it out. And we all stop what we're doing. We all go sit in front of the computer for 10, 15 minutes, and we figure it out. We waste time. So I finally, 2 years ago, I said, all right, let's do it. And I made the video of how to do a gift card. So this year, when they come up to me and say, hey, how do I do a gift card? I say, did you look at the video? And I don't have to stop and take care of that task or that problem anymore because there's a video that addresses it for me.
Right, but you just changed point of sale.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So that's my next one is I do change in January and I got to start all over. But it is what it is.
You should be a pro by then.
Yeah. So I think I'm out of things to say about it. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add here, Keith.
Well, I wanted to keep this one kind of short because we have that 11 o'clock thing. So what if we offered people our policies and procedures and your guide to how to upsell and keep the sale clear and concise? Maybe a link on here for those things to a Google Drive or something. Does that work?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no.
So
Actually, sorry, we can't do that because your competitor might be watching this and we don't want to give that to them.
I would say just reach out.
Yeah.
How about this?
Mhm.
Comment on the post and we'll reach out, or comment your email, or if you don't want to comment your email, comment on the post and we'll reach out and we'll get it. And then we double whammy it so other people can see the post.
Good. Win-win. Right.
So I guess that's it, unless people have questions. I see there's 10 comments, but I can only see 4 of them, and I can't change the setting to all comments.
Oh, I've read them all. Brandon said it's his second salesperson. Something about somebody wants to touch monkeys, or I don't know, something in there. Anyway, so it's nice stuff. But there's no questions. So we'll
all right. Well, anyone watching this post, the live, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we'll make sure we get to it. And is anything you guys want covered in the future, or expand on this, please put it in the chat, and we'll try to address it in the future to help you guys out.
Sounds good to me. Thanks.
All right, thanks for watching.